Hey, it's Colin Gibson, and we're going to talk some more golf equipment today. I've been doing kind of a series of videos on golf shafts and why they're so confusing and why there's so many of them and why you get different advice from different club fitters and different advice from your friends, and everybody's got a different way of thinking about golf shafts. But what you really just want to do is get yourself into the shaft that's going to be the most productive for you to lower your scores. Okay, and remember that trends towards more stiff, less flexible, less torque, okay, longer, lighter, just more predictable. So if you haven't watched the previous video, go back and watch that. It talks all about shafts and really what you should do to scientifically, things that make sense, change about your shafts in order to play better golf. But we left off last time talking about why you should get your shafts flowed in your graphite shafts or spined in your steel shafts. And really, again, it goes back to just predictability. You want your shafts to be as predictable as possible. And not just predictable in one shaft, but predictable throughout your entire bag. Okay, so with graphite shafts, if you go back and look at the video that I did on the AutoFlex shaft, and basically just to reiterate, the AutoFlex shaft, when I got it, it said that it doesn't have to be flowed. So then I flowed it and found that it does have to be flowed. Every graphite shaft has a flat plane oscillation that is predictable. Okay, one plane in the shaft will oscillate predictably, and all of the other planes, when you rotate the shaft, will not oscillate predictably. So there's some controversy about puring or flowing graphite shafts. Does it make a difference? Does it not? Now, the science says that it will, but only if you build the flowed shaft correctly into the club head. Okay, so there's been videos out there where they get a shaft from a manufacturer that said it's been pured. And the funny thing is sometimes it doesn't even have an orientation on it. Sometimes it does, but you have to align that orientation exactly square to your club face or else it doesn't work. So go back and watch that video if you haven't. Anyway, flowing and puring is a good thing. It's not going to hurt you. It's only going to help you, especially as you go throughout your bag. So let's say you're a player that has a driver, a 3-wood, a 5-wood, and a hybrid. Okay, so you've got 4 similar type graphite shafts, hopefully, and if they've all been flowed, then they're all going to act more predictably within themselves and compared to the other shafts in your set than they would if they weren't flowed. So I highly recommend getting them flowed. Okay, remember, we want our shaft to act as an instrument to give us predictable ball striking. Okay, so the more things that you can do to get that, the better. Okay, the more unpredictability of a shaft, if it's not flowed, if it's really flexible, if it has high torque, okay, if it's cheap and not consistent. Those are all bad things that are going to make you a worse golfer. Okay, now let's talk about iron shafts. Okay, your iron shafts should already be stiff, like we talked about last time, so they're going to be pretty predictable. But every iron shaft has a spine. It's just kind of the way they're made. Now, some of these newer type of shafts don't have as much of a spine, which I actually don't like. And let me explain why. If a steel shaft has a spine, then the spine is going to flex less than the other plane of the shaft. Okay, so having predictable flex in a shaft is fine. So when you spine a shaft, you put the spine on the top or the bottom 90 degrees to the target. And what that spine does is it prevents droop. Okay, so you're going to hit less shots fat and thin if you align the spine of the shaft on the top or the bottom or 90 degrees from the target. And if you align the flexible plane of the shaft towards the target, then you're going to have a nice flex that just only flexes at the target, towards the target. Okay, it's going to be predictable. And if you have your entire set of irons and wedges set up like that, then all of your clubs will behave the same. So you can go from hitting a 5-iron to a wedge, and you're not going to hit one thin and one fat. Now imagine if you have steel shafts that have not been spined, and just randomly, the club head's just glued on them randomly. So some of them, the spine's going to be pointing up, okay? Some of it's going to be pointed at the target. Some of it's going to be halfway in between. And so you're going to have like a club in your bag, and this happens to my buddies all the time, where they're just like, every time they pull their 7, they hit it fat. Well, I haven't tested this, but I guarantee if I took their club apart and I spined it, I guarantee that that spine is at the target, meaning that it's most flexible up and down, meaning it's drooping. So if they try to hit a hard 7, they're going to hit hard dirt, and they're going to hit it fat every time. So it's really important to, even if you don't believe in spining or flowing, what it does for the golf shot, at least your entire bag is built the same way. So every one of your clubs does the same thing. Even if you don't think it helps you, it provides consistent ball striking. Absolutely it does. So you definitely need to have your iron shafts spined and your graphite shafts flowed. And you can listen to some other videos where some people will spine the graphite shafts and some people will flow the iron shafts. The reason that I don't do that, the reason I flow graphite shafts is because, remember from the last videos, I said that it's okay to have some flex in your graphite shafts. You're going to have more flex in your graphite shafts than you do in your iron shafts. So those are definitely going to oscillate and have an oscillation plane. So you definitely want those flowed. Now irons, you're not going to have as much flow. Like if you look at the cycles per minute of an iron, there's just a ton of them. It's super high. They barely oscillate, but they do bend in a certain fashion. They do bend opposite of that spine. So when you're doing your club fitting, and that's the problem. A lot of these top 100 club fitters don't flow, they don't SST Pure, and they don't spine. And that's a problem. I'm not going to tell you who I ordered it from, but I just got a set of irons from a top company and club fitter and ordered them to my specs. They said that they were spined. When I took them apart, they weren't. Okay, and that's the other problem with a lot of these. It takes a lot of work to build clubs and to spine them correctly and put them together correctly again. So I have a feeling that some of you guys are paying $25 a club to get your clubs flowed and spined or more. And they're just telling you that they are because they know that you'll never take them apart and check. So try to pick a club fitter that's going to, do flowing, do spining, do MOI matching. That's another one. I was supposed to have them MOI matched at 2,900, and I took them. I measured them, and they're not. They don't think anybody has an MOI machine or anybody's going to take apart their shafts and check to see if they're assembled correctly. So club fitters are lazy. They just want to make money, and they're not necessarily going to treat you right all the time. So go to somebody that you trust, but make sure your clubs are set up, or you're going to wonder why you're not playing the best golf you can.